question on the referral of the sales tax to do the bond issue and fund our future highway needs through that method. I for one, am never against the people speaking through the ballot box. So it's that certainly is a viable option. However, I personally feel like that the folks that elected me to come up here, identify the problems that are imminent to a negative impact on the future of our state. And I think our transportation system is fundamental. That the electorate sent me up here is telling me to identify those problems, edify myself, because that's what they expect me to do in coming up here and representing them, and then dealing with the problem. So I'm more inclined to say, look, we've got to redefine a revenue stream into our highway system to ensure that we have a type transportation system that attracts the industry, provides for our safety of our citizens, and provides an attractive basis for tourists coming to this state. And that's something that is incumbent upon us to identify the problems, debate the solutions, and present the answer, and then go home as tough as it is, and convince folks that sent us up here to take care of the business we got sense enough to do it, and tell them why we're doing what we're doing. Now, whether I can find enough of my colleagues feel that way, I don't know, but that's kind of how I'm going to be looking at it. But bottom line is, if we're not successful in that, then certainly at a minimum we need to send it back home to them and say, we're not going to deal with it, we're going to let you deal with it, and we're going to give you the options and our recommendations. But one reason I'm a little bit reluctant on that is depending on how successful the campaign might be on a referral, if the wisdom of people is not to support a tax increase to fund the highway system, then boy, this really puts us in a bad situation in the next few years of legislative system. I mean, if the people had voted and said, no, we don't want to do that, and then you really got some obstacles to overcome when you come back up here and listen to the governor, and the governor's always very convincing when he speaks on that and other issues. But I certainly agree with him that we have a unlike the federal government at times it seems to have an infinite source of revenue out there to the chagrin of the voting public in the most recent election. But we have a finite source, and so if I think that there are a number of proposals that certainly have merit. But as the governor eloquently states, he usually says, what prisoners you're going to release, what higher ed institutions you're going to shut down, or what nursing home you're going to close. It's a good way of bringing the attention to the fact that if we're going to give tax relief, we're going to have to find an offset in the way of reducing expenses. So that's going to be the challenge, I think, on revenue and tax, that when these good proposals come in there, it's like, that's what I'm basically going to be telling my members. Bring your good proposals in, but bring in a proposal with that for us to look at when our revenue gurus come in and tell us what that's going to cost in our stream of revenue. Tell us where we're going to make that up, and let's work on finding a back-end solution for framing a good idea.
But where would you see some of those spending cuts coming from? You've looked at the budget for months and years in the legislature. Where would you see some opportunity to reduce some expenses? Where would you look first? Where would you hope they'd look first?
Well, I mean, as far as you talk about, like on the used cars, we'd be talking about, like if we were going to propose that idea, for instance. You could base that on possibly one avenue is the previous year's income on the sales tax. I mean, what you can do is you can base that on projections of growth. And if you don't have any growth, then you can't do anything. But if you do, so I mean, it's in proportion to how the revenue and to the growth goes. So you wouldn't necessarily have to cut. You just might not have extra money coming in like you normally would. So I mean, that's kind of the phase. As far as the specifics go, that's what the process is about. I mean, that's what you have to sit down and take a look at. And Doug asked a minute ago about do you agree or disagree with the governor. I don't mean to be sidestepping, but I think it's an important point. I think the real thing is we don't know yet what our revenues are going to be. I mean, that's what we find out towards the end of the session. So it's all speculation up until that point in time. And I think that that's one thing that we need to consider doing is on some of these proposals. I think we may want to wait towards the end of the session to get a truer idea of what the state budget's going to be. You know, what we're looking at as far as the revenues.
We're going to look at all of them, along with the removing the sales tax on used cars, which obviously impacts a segment of our population that needs to be considered highly in tax relief measures along with the grocery tax. We also are going to have a number of tax incentives, tax relief geared at economic development, job growth. And job growth is going to, I think, is going to be that's going to be the spearhead of everything we do, the actions that we take in the legislature, and I think the governor's leadership is going to be geared toward stimulating economic growth and creating jobs, because that's the message more than anything else that I think those of us who are returning as members of the legislature heard in the election process.
I know that one issue that he's been talking about is the tax on used cars. I know this is something that I don't think I'm alone, but this is something that I've been looking at as far as a possibility of maybe a phase-out plan over a course of a number of years, a number of sessions. Again, this is something that we don't have ironed out by any stretch of the imagination. This is something that I think we'll be discussing. I think there'll probably be a multitude of tax reduction issues that may be considered and looked at. But I think Governor Beebe makes a very important and key point. Sure, everybody would like to do away with all the taxes, but we do have a responsibility to the citizens of Arkansas to provide the services that are essential to them. So we have to balance the burden that we have on taxes in relation to what responsibilities we have.